Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Michelle Boudreau of February Rose. Today we are going to be learning how to create these beautiful pink magnolia flowers using watercolor. So let's just jump right into it. So the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to mix up some permanent rose pink, and you're going to add a good amount of water to give it a very soft pink tone. You could also add white if you want to give it a more of a creamier pink. And you're just going to create these oval sort of petals. There's some thin lines depending on how you look at the flower, but this you're looking at it straight ahead, so you'll see some petals peeking out in the back. And then you're going to go in with some green, like a sap green, and you're just going to tap where the petals meet, and you're going to create this. It's called a penduncle. That is what attaches to the branch, because this is actually a tree, the magnolia. And then you're going to create a branch. It doesn't have to be a perfect straight line, because in nature, if you look at a branch, it's not straight. It's not perfectly straight. It has ridges in it. And you can create little stems coming from the branches. That's where you're going to put the buds. And then I will just go in with a darker pink, maybe like opera rose, and just tap while the petals are still wet to create those beautiful blooms. And now I'm just going to create another flower next to it. And I haven't put in the green yet where it meets, and that's okay. You don't have to start with that. You can start from the branch up. But if you work a little quickly, then you can still tap into those wet colors to give you those beautiful blooms. And I'm going to use the same green and just sort of create these little buds with just by tapping and making little dots, creating more stems and adding more buds. And then if you want to take away some color, you can dry your brush off and sort of just soak up that pigment into your brush. And I went back in and I tapped in some more pink while the petals were still wet, because you really just cannot beat the colors and the mixtures when these dry. There's just something so great about watercolor. You can't control or mimic the way that it's gonna look once it's dried. And I was gonna stop there, but I decided to keep going, so here I am. I'm gonna paint another flower. And again, we're looking at the flower, we're not looking above. So you're going to see the front of the flower. And you do want to make sure the petals are rounded on top, because when you look at your reference photo, whether it be real life or a photo, these flowers, they have rounded petals. And then these ones are sort of just jutting out the sides, and then you can see from behind there's just some petals peeking through. And then we're just going to go in with the green, tap while it's still wet. And if you don't like the bleeds, you can wait for it to dry and then go in. I prefer like a looser, messier, flowy sort of style. So I do like to tap and create those beautiful blends. And then here I am matching my branches. There is no right or wrong way. Kind of just go with the flow and see where it takes you. And again, the branch, you can thicken it up, you can add little bumps, you can add little ridges, stems coming from it, because these are flowering trees, so they do have a lot of buds on them. And it is always wonderful if you can go out in nature and see them in real life. But I'm going to do that technique again where I sort of tap into the wet petal, create some interest and blooms, and then drag it out. And while I drag it out, you see I am sucking up some of that color. So when it dries, as you can see on the left, they're kind of dry now. They just have these beautiful like places of light pink and dark pink and a mixture of the green, and it's just like something so beautiful about it. And I'm just going to add some more buds. You don't have to add the buds if you don't like. I just find it to be pretty sparse when there's nothing on the branch. But it is fun, and it's nice to practice. Touching up the buds. And then there's a technique where I sort of lift that pigment up while it's still wet. And you can see it's a totally different look now. And then we're going to add some green back in. It was a little too dark before that. And just keep going back over spots. And right here I sort of messed up. I don't know if I messed up or not, but it was a good guideline because then I just decided to create another flower, and this one is going to be a little bit smaller. It's still in the same point of view, so again, I always start with like 3 petals, little hints of petals in the background, so you just tap the brush, create those almost like peeling out petals. And then you're just going to repeat that same process with the green. Tap, tap, tap. Create that penduncle. I know it's a funny word. And then you're just going to create little leaves, almost like peeling out again. And then have the branch meet the green. And of course, it does not need to be perfect. You can make it thicker. You can make it have little ridges, little stems coming out. Just have fun. I'm just gonna add my final touches to my buds, and I'm gonna go back in while it's still wet, and you can see the flowers that are dried, how beautiful they are with all the different color variations. And then once they are all dry, I like to go back in and sort of do more touch-ups. So I'm gonna add little lines of pink, and it just gives it that final look. It's like a finishing touch. When you look at the flower, you can see that there are little lines in it, whether it be shadow or just the way the flower is. So it just adds this like nice feel at the end, like a finished look, and it adds a little bit of contrast. It looks really nice because now this will dry darker and you have just more depth in there. And I'm just doing my final little touch-ups. Don't be afraid to go back in once they have dried and add your final touch-ups. So this is just a layering technique, and you can really add some more depth and more interest and more detail once it's dry. But that is it. That is how you create these magnolia flowers. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it, and I hope you learned something new. If you have any ideas for any more flowers that you'd like to learn, drop them in the comments below. Also, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel, and if you want to find little mini tutorials, you can find me on Instagram as well. And I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you next time.